I'm gonna shut my mouth and I'm gonna pack as fast as I can. We had shoulder pads, like there were brushes in my shoulder. Like I'm in front of the camera, like not even voiceover, like we're all the way in. Well, story time. Let's do it. This story time was like interesting and frustrating, and I actually meant to upload this video years ago. Okay, so this is at least 5-year-old footage we're gonna see, and not all my story times will have footage to back it up, but trust me when I say I wanted to upload this so long ago because it was like, I think it was good footage for when it was actually made. However, I couldn't upload it because I never got the final image. So let's just rewind. So I had done everybody in this family's wedding. The aunts, the cousin, the mom, the sister. But this was the first person I had done within this family unit that wasn't in the family unit. It was a friend. I was excited in itself. Okay, I want to just kind of lay down. I'm not bashing anyone. There was nothing wrong with the bride or anything like that. But this was just a unique case that ended very interestingly. So anywho, she inquired, I love the makeup from that last wedding I attended. It was beautiful. The hair, everybody looked fabulous. And she's like, oh my gosh, I have to book you. I believe it was 5 or 6 people, hair and makeup. Said she was the last person done in these clips. 4:45 a.m. call time. I like to leave a lot of leeway. I like to leave a lot of gap because anything and anything will go wrong on a wedding day. With that said, you're going to see some clips here of me getting her hair done. I'm going to take out the audio because there's a lot of music going on, and for copyright reasons, of course, as well. But there was a lot of interesting conversation going on, and some of it included the fact that there was very little time to get this bride done. And I was very aware. 4:45 a.m. call time, I gave myself an extra 40 minutes just in case. Whatever may happen, I leave an extra 30, 40 minutes gap time. And then even then, for my travel time, I always add extra travel. I go in at set time, maybe 5 minutes early just to knock on the door or ring the doorbell or whatever and get the things in. 4:40 comes and I unload and I go to the front door. Actually, it was a side door. And I knock and I knock and I knock. And it was a chilly morning. I knocked and knocked and now I'm getting chilly. So I'm 4:45. Now this is call time. So I'm starting to think, uh-oh, nobody's awake. Let me call. So I call and it's ringing and it's ringing and it's ringing. And I'm like, I don't even hear it inside. Then I start having that panic attack. And any other artist ever been there? You're at the door and you're like, what if I'm at the wrong house? What if I'm at the wrong house? They might not hear the phone or they're busy or whatever, but at least they would see me and hear me because the house was so quiet. I start kind of panicking and I'm like, well, what if I were at the wrong home? That's the worst feeling, is to be, now I'm a few minutes past call time, to think, what if I'm not even at the right place? Now I'm banging that door. This is 10 minutes after call time. I am banging that door. We're now at 5:15. Nothing has happened, and even though I've given myself this gap of time, it's almost gone. I decide, okay, this is a side door. What if I go to the front? Of course, the fear comes into my mind. What if it's not a one family home and I'm now disturbing a whole nother family? Finally decide, you know what? Let me call the family members that I know that are friends with this bride. So I go ahead and do that, and I'm not hearing from them. I don't have a lot of issues with a lot of things in the world, but when it comes to time and like bookings and these type of things, anybody who knows me, my anxiety runs high because I like things to be run really smoothly, especially when it comes to wedding days, because we already have like that tension that comes with wedding days. Brides want things to be perfect. I don't want to be jittery or lost with it. I'm not here for this today. I'm just not. A few minutes later, thank goodness, somebody drives up. It was one of the bridesmaids. So not all of them were in the home. There were a couple that needed to arrive. So luckily enough, they arrived. They call and they're knocking with me. And somebody eventually answered. Because they had this other phone number, that person answered the phone that they were calling, the phone number they were calling. And it seemed like it was the mother of the bride. So luckily enough, the mother was awake. I have no idea why she wasn't answering the door. Why wasn't she answering the door? We get in, okay? So she kind of comes in. She has a child. She's coming in, and I had been back and forth because I was freezing. So I had left my kid at the side there, at the side door, and I had gone back into the vehicle trying to keep warm. And as I said, this young lady shows up, and now I finally get to come out my vehicle and load up into the house. I finally get in, and they were like, where have you been? Where have I been? It's now like 5:35. We're standing here wondering where I've been. I've been here. I've been here. Where were you? Finally, I'm set up. Where is everybody? The one girl who, you know, came in with me, she has a child. So she doesn't want to go first. I'm in for it today. And I was like, you know what? Can you do any of that while you're just sitting here so at least I can get your hair done? She doesn't want to go. And I'm just like, we got to get going, guys. So now I'm in Pureness angry mode. I'm like, hi guys, so our time is really tight right now, and what we really need to do is start the ball rolling. So I need to have someone in my chair immediately so we can get to where we need to be. Somebody else finally shows up from upstairs. They're coming down the stairs. When is it my turn? I'm just gonna wash my face and take a shower. Yeah, okay, well, at this point I was defeated. I can't tell you don't take your shower, but what I could say is, why didn't you take it 2 hours ago? So somebody could be in my chair. Why? That's all I want to know. Why? Because, you know, as an artist and service provider, what's going to happen in the end, and it's happened before, and it will probably happen again, guess who gets blamed at the end? When the bride can't make it or she's 15 minutes late, guess who everybody looks at? This one? Yeah, that's who they look at. And they shake their head, they say whatever, they cuss me out in all languages and all forms. They're never gonna turn around and say my family was late or this is what happened. They're never gonna look at what happened in the background. Really all they see is me doing the face, rushing and sweating, and they're like, it must be this crazy lady right here that made these people late. I did her hair in an updo. It's not a very complex updo, but it was still something that took a little bit of time and precision. Okay, I still had to do the finger. You still see I'm rolling with my hands. I'm kind of forming curls and volume with my fingers and my hands, and spraying and teasing and all that stuff. So definitely beautiful hairstyle. She looked amazing in the end. One of the main things with updos like this is not just time to get everything together, it's time to make sure it doesn't fall apart. You'll see that it almost looks kind of relaxed when I'm doing the bride, but I'm not. My mind is going 1,000,000 miles an hour. Like, it was going so fast because I'm so stressed. I'm like, I've got to get this curl perfect, but hurry up iron, hurry up world, everything, just hurry up so I can get this done, but still make it perfect. And that's very hard to do, is to really rush yourself, but with something that takes time. Then there's her makeup. There are certain things that need to dry and set. One being the concealer on her eyelids. It never got to set. The shadow does set it in, so I wasn't that worried, but it's just one of those extra steps that I'm like, oh my gosh, like really right now? I don't want that to be missing. I don't want any problems because already I know I'm rushing. If anything looks like it's missing on my end, not only will it make it look like I've made her late, it will also make it look like I'm just offering bad services in general, and I don't want that. One thing I would rather is have her 5 minutes late rather than have her look terrible or have something fall apart, like lashes fall off or something, because that would be a whole nother issue. She gets up, I don't know if I'll insert this clip. She gets up and I'm like, I I didn't tell her to get up yet. But I still had to put shadow under her eyes because it looked crazy. And you may or may not know how it's supposed to look, but if you're an artist or anyone who's into makeup, you definitely can see that under her eyes looks really bland, like nothing happened yet. So I'm like, now I gotta rush, bring the shadow and the liner and 2 brushes with me and run around in front of her as her family's helping her get her dress on. That was somewhat nightmarish. But what was the real fun highlighted part of this wedding was her father. Listen, I didn't exactly understand every word he was saying, but by his tone and his stare, I feared my life. This man was ready to kill me. He was like staring at me, and within all of this stress, I'm like, now I just need to pack up. But everything had been such a rush, and anyone that knows how I work within my kit. And everything's put back each step. Nothing had been put back. There's 10,000 different sprays that I didn't even use because I just pulled everything out because I was just like going, right? I didn't have time to worry about like, do I need to pull this out my kit? Or I just pulled everything out. So everything was on their dining table, which I do not like to work like that. I don't like to work taking out things. Anyone who knows me, I don't work like normal artists in that way. So I was really stressed out thinking, not only are they rushing, and now she's probably sweating. I didn't even get to check. She might be sweating over there, ready to rent out the place. And now I've got like a good 20-30 minutes of packing up to do. And they all have to get in a limo. I made this little girl late, and how dare me? All in my mind, and this has happened once before where, I had a family stare down. All I'm thinking is, were you guys here when it was like a good hour or something into it? And we hadn't started anything yet? Were you guys here? Did you know what I went through? Do you guys even get it? No, you don't. So then I just have to be, the perfect service provider. I'm gonna shut my mouth and I'm gonna pack as fast as I can. Nothing's gonna go where they belong. Everything's gonna be flying. We had shoulder pads, like there were brushes in my shoulders. There were things going on in the bra. I had to stuff things in the pocket. Nothing made sense. And everything was flying. But thank goodness I was able to get them to fly into the kit. So I was able to, escape. I finally saved my own life and get into the vehicle, drive away. I took a picture of, the limo driving away because they weren't able to leave until I was leaving. So that was that. It didn't end there. When I drove away, I realized the camera I filmed with, the stand and the lighting were left right there in the living room. And the only person that I would have access to was the father. Because earlier, when I mentioned that I had reached out to the family that I initially contacted or connected me with this bride, they had eventually texted me back a couple hours after and gave me a phone number, and they were like, this is the number for her father, maybe he's awake. So I had his number. I found out also that the number I had that I was calling was a house number, and the one that the bridesmaid had was the mother of the bride's cell phone. So that's why she had responded in the morning. However, this one was the father's cell phone, and that was possibly the only person who I may have access to because I didn't actually get the mother's number. So I had to call them. And, at that point I had to swallow my pride. I didn't want to call. I wanted to wait and then, whatever. But this bride was going to be going off to a honeymoon for a couple weeks. I needed my camera. That's sensitive equipment. You don't want to leave in somebody else's hands. So I needed my camera. My DSLR was coming home with me. I waited a bit in respects. They were rushing to a wedding. I waited a bit. I think it was the next day around noon. I called. And I was like, I'm so sorry, this is the makeup artist. He was like, what? You didn't really speak that much English. He put somebody else on. I don't know if it was his son or somebody else in the family, a young gentleman. And he, translated back, and they communicated that it was my camera. And they said, yes, they see it, they have it, and I can come get it in a week. in my mind, I'm like, why do I have to wait a week? I was fearing my life. That's why the camera got left behind. This is so unfair. Okay? So unfair. So I kind of just talked to the son and I was like, no, honestly, I really need that camera. It's expensive equipment. I need to film other things. I need to do things with it. So he was like talking to, as I said, I'm kind of just calling him the son. I don't know if he is. So he's talking to his father and they, you know, have some loud words to each other. That didn't help me. That didn't help my emotions at all. Let's just put it out there. I was a little scared, sweating over the phone. And he's like, okay, yeah, maybe tomorrow evening around 6, 7. And I was like, okay, how about 7:30? Maybe you guys are home, done eating, everything. He was like, yeah, oh, later is okay? Okay, so make it like 8, 8:30. I'm like, yeah, 8:30 it is. We're locked. So I go to the house. I knock on the side door, and then they open the front door. So that part was already confusing. I was like, huh? So I walk around, and they have the camera in their hand, but not everything else. So then I'm like, oh, what about the rest of the stuff? And he was like, oh, it's there. So I'm like, so should I take off my shoes and come get it? And they're like, yeah. And the father gave me this stare. You know, when you get out of a situation, you should never ever have to return. You know what I mean? Like, you just should never have to ever return. That should be it. You run for your life. Like, you don't see these horror movies and like the person runs out the scene and then runs back in. Like, it's done after that. They're either dead. They're either dead, chop up. Bro, I had to go back. I had to go back. The only thing that made me feel somewhat better is this young man was there as well. Okay. I got my camera and I was never to return again. And I never have. So thanks guys, thanks for joining me for this crazy story time. I know I'm over dramatic, but no, it actually went like this. This was not the dramatics. I actually had this happen to me, and again, it's not one of the worst situations I've ever been in, but that ending part and then having to return was not fun. Okay, so when you're in the moment, it's a lot more heavy than it is when you come out of it. This was years ago. I can laugh about it, whatever. That day I was not laughing. Driving, I was saying all different kind of words. How dare he look at me like this because it's not my fault, and maybe you should tell your people to be on time. I had so many choice words with myself during that ride, but all in all, I know she looked amazing. The family that I was connected to with her, everybody has still continued to rehire me. I don't think there were any harsh feelings per se. I just think we ended things off on a really weird, awkward note. So I hope everything is going well in their marriage and they're just prospering and having an amazing time. Even during these lockdown times, I wish them all the best in their marriage. And thank you again for watching. Subscribe, make sure you hit that bell, and I'll see you guys around.